So in a strange new alliance, SpaceX, a rocket company, just announced that it struck a deal allowing it to potentially buy Cursor, a coding tool, for $60 billion. And if that deal doesn't sound like it totally makes sense, it's kind of because it doesn't. But I'll explain. For context, that deal is more than NASA's entire annual budget for a code editor. The buyer launches rockets, the product helps you write software. But the reason this deal exists tells you everything about where we are in the AI cycle right now, because both of these companies have a big problem that they cannot solve alone. So let's break this down. Cursor, if you don't already know, it's the AI coding tool the developers are obsessed with. You write code, but Cursor's AI writes it faster and better, potentially automating the entire field of software engineering, but developers are still fond of it. The company was worth $2.5 billion in January of last year, $9 billion by May, $29 billion by November, and was raising at $50 billion this week, a strangely normal accelerating multiple curve for AI right now. But Cursor has a fatal dependency. It doesn't have its own AI. It runs on Claude and GPT, Anthropic and OpenAI's models, the same two companies that are both building their own coding tools to directly compete with Cursor. Anthropic has Claude Code, OpenAI has Codex, and Cursor is a storefront running on its landlord's inventory. Both landlords just opened their own store next door, so it's time for Cursor to make a move. Meanwhile, SpaceX has the opposite problem. Musk merged SpaceX with xAI, which is his AI company, the one that makes Grok, back in February, valued the combined entity at $1.25 trillion. But the thing is, Grok can't code. Grok can make AI girlfriends. Grok can say historically inaccurate and politically incorrect things, but it can't code. At least not well enough to compete with Claude or GPT. Last month, 2 senior Cursor engineers left to join SpaceX, and Musk's response was to concede that xAI was not built right. The odd time in which he's capable of humility. That's the CEO of the company admitting that the AI division doesn't actually work in the age of AI. So Musk is doing what he always does when he can't actually build the thing, which is that he's buying the thing. Probably expedient ahead of a massive IPO that's supposed to make him a trillionaire. The deal structure is quite telling. So SpaceX doesn't buy Cursor today, but it gets the option to buy Cursor for $60 billion later this year, or it can pay a mere $10 billion just for the partnership as a bargain. That's essentially a call option on buying a company. SpaceX is paying for the right to decide later whether Cursor is worth owning or just worth renting. And this drops weeks before the biggest IPO in history. SpaceX is expected to raise $75 billion at a $1.75 trillion valuation. Investors looking at SpaceX stock now see a rocket company, a satellite internet company, and a potential $60 billion AI coding platform that every developer is obsessed with. You don't announce a deal like this before an IPO by accident. So essentially, here is the strategic marriage. You have a coding tool that can't survive without its competitor's AI, teaming up with a rocket company whose AI can't code. Kind of the perfect partnership. 2 companies with complementary weaknesses are dressing each other up, one for survival and one for an IPO. SpaceX wants to add some real dangerous AI to its stack ahead of going public. And Cursor gets access to SpaceX's Colossus supercomputer to train its own model so it doesn't have to depend on Anthropic and OpenAI anymore. Also, it gets Elon Musk's credit card, essentially. SpaceX gets an AI story for investors that isn't just, we built Grok and it didn't work. So a code editor worth $2.5 billion 15 months ago is now worth $60 billion to a rocket company that needs an AI story for an IPO. It's a strange story, but probably not the strangest one of the week, because it's only Tuesday. Cursor needs models that it doesn't have, SpaceX needs a product that it can't build, and somewhere in between, $60 billion changed hands, not for a company, but for the option to buy one later. And somehow it's a good deal for both of them.